Hello, my name is Anvesh Rizal. I'm a solution consultant for MuleSoft, and today I'm going to walk you through Remedy and ServiceNow integration powered by MuleSoft. First, let's start with the architecture. The way that this is going to work is when I go in and update an incident on ServiceNow, it's going to call an API that's running on MuleSoft's Anypoint platform that's going to update the records. It's going to use the out-of-the-box connector for Remedy, and it's going to call Remedy to replicate that ticket. And later on, when we go in and update that ticket on the Remedy side, similarly, it's going to call an API that's designed to extract fields from Remedy, the fields that changed, and then synchronize that information with ServiceNow. The reason we did it this way, the other alternative was to simply use our out-of-the-box connectors and then do a more of a point-to-point type integration. This is an example of how that could be done, where I'm polling Remedy on a schedule basis, extracting that information, and calling ServiceNow using both out-of-the-box Remedy and ServiceNow connectors. But I feel like what happens is when you start doing these point-to-point integration over the course of years, you have a whole bunch of them, and then they start to become unmanageable. And the problem with that is if certain things change and you have 20, 30 of these flows, then you need to go and update all of them individually. So a better way to do this is we take that information, the call that makes to ServiceNow to create an incident. What if we took that and we abstracted that out in the form of this of an API? And then in my case, I'm calling that Common Incident API. The reason that this is a better way to do it is because I'm creating an abstraction layer and it's going through an API. I have 100% visibility. I have full governance. I want to make sure only the right person are authorized to make these API calls. So it's a much more manageable way to do it, right? And even better, when my requirements change and then folks come to me and say, hey, I'd like to be able to create ServiceNow incident when a partner, for example, drops a message onto a queue, or I'm getting this file extract from an external provider, and then I want you to take the data and create tickets, or even parse an email to create tickets. So these are examples of 4 various ways I can create an incident. But what I'm doing now is all 4 of these processes are calling the same common incident flow, right? That means that when certain things change on the ServiceNow side, I have one place to go make that change. And then from a testing purposes or managing standpoint, I don't necessarily have to test all of them, because if it worked for one, then it's going to work for all the other processes that are calling that common API. Right, so we call this API first approach, where we're not doing point-to-point connections, but we're calling these APIs, which become a reusable artifact, right? And some of the benefits I see with an architecture like this is, first of all, it's not very tightly coupled, right? So it's going to be loosely coupled, which is a better long-term strategy. And then it provides for a more robust architecture, because if I wanted to apply some exception handling strategy, or you want to do some data validation type things, then I don't have to do it in 20 places. I simply do it in my common API flow that I have defined here, and then all the other callers of these services are going to be affected by that continual improvement that I make. So as for integration, it's better. It's easier to manage, it's easier to test, it's easier for governance, and I also feel like it's a cleaner implementation. That way, when I leave the organization and somebody else is coming and taking ownership of this, they don't necessarily have to know about the 20 places where I may have done point-to-point connection. Okay, so the details of how this works is, like I said earlier, right? MuleSoft's Anypoint platform is going to sit in the middle. That's going to host the API. So what ServiceNow is going to do is, when an incident gets created or updated, it's going to make this call that MuleSoft's hosting, right? And MuleSoft provides a gateway that securely hosts these API. It also manages the security, so you have full governance. Only authorized people are going to be able to make this request. And the flow that we built within the platform, it's going to, just like I showed you in the earlier present slide, It's going to use our out-of-the-box connector to make these calls, right? And later on, when my service desk analyst, they go out and work on this replicated incident over on the BMC side, if they make any changes or if they resolve this issue, it's going to work the exact same way. Remedy is going to make an outbound call to a similar API that's hosted on the platform that's going to synchronize that change back to ServiceNow. Okay, let's take a demo. Let's take a look at a demo. So I'm going to first start out by creating an incident on the ServiceNow side. I'm going to click on New. I will say that my computer is very slow. And I could have done this for all of my incidents, but for demo purposes, I created a category called Remedy, and I'm only synchronizing that specific type of incident. So you can pick and choose what incidents you want to synchronize. You have full control over that. And what's going to happen is when I save this incident, now as part of this business rule, it's going to call MuleSoft API, there you go, and create an incident on the Remedy side and get that information back and update the ServiceNow ticket, right? So now I have that linkage from ServiceNow to the Remedy incident. And from a user standpoint, I didn't have to do any of this. It happened automatically for me. So now I can see there's a Remedy incident, and here's a reference to that. So let's go on the Remedy side, and we'll take a look. Let me refresh my incident screen, and there it is, right? So there's my incident that says my computer is very slow that got created. So for example, maybe I want to make some changes. I will maybe add additional notes and say, need more info or something like that. And then I can even make some changes to the summary to say computer is slow just as an example, right? So when I go in and I save this ticket, as you can see right down here, I have a vendor ticket number. It's just a field that I use to reference back to that ServiceNow. So Remedy now knows how to refer back to the ServiceNow ticket. So it knows exactly what ticket to go in and update. So this step typically happens automatically as well. But for my demonstration purposes, I'm going to manually trigger this, which is just another HTTP call, right? So what's going to happen now is that's going to be that similar API call that's going to get executed, and there it goes, right? You can see that I removed the word very from there, so that got updated on the ServiceNow description, and then the fact that my help desk analyst said that it needed more information also got synchronized back to the ServiceNow side. Okay, let's say fast forward a couple hours, couple of days, or I as a ServiceNow admin, I call this person. I'm going to take ownership of this ticket. I'm going to call this person, and I figure out a way to close this issue, right? And I will say that, computer restarting fixed it. So when just like how I showed earlier, right? When I save this issue, it's going to again do this behavior automatically behind the scene. Now what's going to happen is that API call in the background is now going to call ServiceNow, and there it goes, right? It updated my incident status from new to resolved, and it also brought back my closer notes that I can also see. So if I refresh my screen here, I will see that my incident state went from new to resolved. So that's it. That's the power of MuleSoft, is that it's running behind the scene, and you as an end user, you don't have to manually synchronize this, right? So what's powering this is the Anypoint Management Center in the background, right? So what it's also doing is it's capturing all these API calls that are happening, that are going back and forth, and I can go to my runtime manager and look at my integration that's running, and look at the operational view of this integration. So, I can see the patterns of when these tickets are being synchronized, and looks like I've had pretty good luck with all these synchronization. But I can actually expand on these and it will tell me, it'll actually give me the metadata of this information, and it's actually telling me that, hey, this was incident number 249 that was updated. So, you know, if there's any reason where things didn't go through and then you wanted to come in and debug, I can actually come back to this and all, see both whether it was ServiceNow incident or remedy incident, what happened. I can even take a look at the logs if there's any issues, what have you. So it'll give you, 100% visibility if things go wrong or go right. But at the same time, because it's driven by these APIs powered by MuleSoft Anypoint platform, you as technicians or folks working on the help desk, they don't have to worry about manually synchronizing all this. MuleSoft takes care of all that. Hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching.